The hidden camera blinked red from behind the restaurant's decorative plant, capturing every moment as Ethan Cole walked through the door, straight into the cruelest trap his coworkers had ever designed. They'd spent weeks planning this. The fake blind date, the deaf woman, the secret recordings. They wanted proof that the perfect single dad was nothing but an act. What they got instead shattered every assumption they'd ever made and changed 4 lives forever. This is a story about a setup that backfired, a connection that defied expectations, and a family that chose each other when the world expected them to fail. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights of Henderson and Associates hummed overhead as Ethan Cole stood at the break room counter, methodically preparing his daughter's lunch for the next day. Turkey sandwich, carrot sticks, apple slices cut into perfect quarters. The same careful routine he'd followed every weekday evening for the past 3 years. His coworkers had long since gone home, but Ethan stayed late, using the quiet hours to catch up on work while Emma was with his mother. "Still here, Cole?" Marcus Chen appeared in the doorway, suit jacket slung over his shoulder, eyebrows raised in exaggerated surprise. "Don't you have a life outside this office?" Ethan smiled without looking up from the sandwich he was wrapping. "This is my life. Work and Emma. It's enough." "That's what you always say?" Marcus stepped into the break room, followed by Jennifer Watts and David Kumar. The trio exchanged glances Ethan didn't catch, their expressions carrying something between amusement and calculation. But seriously, man, when's the last time you went on an actual date?" Ethan's hands paused for just a fraction of a second before continuing their work. "Not interested. Emma comes first." "Emma's 7 years old," Jennifer said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Don't you think she'd want her dad to be happy? To have someone in his life besides a first grader and spreadsheets?" "I am happy." "Bullshit." David leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You're surviving. There's a difference." The conversation was familiar territory. His coworkers had been pushing him toward dating for months, ever since he'd casually mentioned at a company picnic that he hadn't been on a date since his wife Sarah died 4 years ago. What had started as friendly concern had gradually evolved into something more aggressive, more insistent. Ethan had learned to deflect with humor and quick topic changes, but tonight they seemed particularly determined. "Look," Marcus said, pulling out his phone, "my cousin knows this woman. Nice, professional, age-appropriate. Just coffee. 1 hour. If it's terrible, you never have to do it again, and we'll stop bothering you." Ethan finally looked up, meeting Marcus's eyes with the kind of patient exhaustion that came from being a single parent. "I appreciate what you're trying to do, but, Dad?" The small voice from the doorway cut through his refusal. Emma stood there in her purple jacket, his mother right behind her, both of them looking at Ethan with identical expressions of gentle concern. "Emma, sweetheart, what are you doing here?" His daughter walked into the break room with the serious determination of someone far older than 7. "Grandma said you were still working, but I wanted to tell you something." Ethan crouched down to her level, ignoring his coworkers entirely. "What is it, baby?" Emma's small hands reached up to frame his face, her dark eyes, so much like Sarah's, searching his with an intensity that made his chest tighten. "Mom would want you to be happy, really happy. Not just pretend happy." The break room went silent. Even Marcus, usually quick with a joke, seemed struck by the solemnity of the moment. "I am happy," Ethan said softly. "I have you." "But you're lonely." Emma's voice cracked slightly. "I hear you sometimes at night, walking around, not sleeping." Ethan's mother stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "She's right, honey. You can't keep living like this. Sarah wouldn't have wanted—" "Don't." The word came out sharper than Ethan intended. He stood up, creating distance, his jaw tight. "Please don't tell me what Sarah would have wanted." "I'm sorry." His mother's voice was soft, understanding. "But Emma's right. You're allowed to live again, to find someone who makes you smile the way you used to." "Just one date," Emma said, her small voice cutting through every defense Ethan had carefully constructed. "Please, Dad. For me?" And there it was, the only argument that could possibly work. Ethan looked at his daughter's hopeful face, at his mother's gentle encouragement, at his coworkers' expectant expressions. He felt the walls closing in, felt the weight of everyone's concern pressing against the careful isolation he'd built around himself and Emma. "One date," he finally said, the words tasting like surrender. "One coffee. That's it." The reaction was immediate. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder, Jennifer beamed, David nodded approval. But Ethan only saw Emma's smile, genuine and bright, and so full of hope it nearly broke his heart. What Ethan didn't see was the look that passed between Marcus, Jennifer, and David. The quick, triumphant glance that said everything had gone exactly according to plan. 3 days later, Ethan stood outside the Riverside Cafe, checking his watch for the third time in as many minutes. 6:15. His date was supposed to arrive at 6. The rational part of his brain noted that 15 minutes wasn't technically late, that traffic happened, that he was being unreasonable. The anxious part, the part that hadn't been on a date in over 5 years, was already constructing elaborate scenarios of disaster. He'd almost canceled twice. The first time, Emma had caught him hovering over his phone, ready to type out an apologetic text. She'd simply looked at him with those devastating eyes and said, "Dad, brave." The second time, his mother had physically taken his phone away and told him that if he canceled, she'd sign him up for every dating app on the market. So here he stood, wearing the navy blue shirt Emma had picked out, his palms slightly sweaty despite the cool October evening. The cafe was one of those deliberately rustic places with exposed brick and hanging plants, the kind of establishment that served coffee in ceramic mugs and had small, intimate tables designed for exactly this kind of uncomfortable social ritual. Through the window, he could see several occupied tables, a young couple leaning close, sharing a dessert, an older man reading a newspaper. And in the corner, partially hidden behind a large fern, he caught a glimpse of someone who looked suspiciously like David Kumar. Ethan's stomach dropped. No, they wouldn't. But before he could investigate further, a woman approached from his left. She was petite, maybe 5'4", with long dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a green sweater, comfortable rather than dressy, and she was looking directly at him with an expression that was equal parts nervous and determined. She stopped a few feet away and her hands moved in quick, fluid gestures. Sign language. Ethan's mind went completely blank for approximately 3 seconds. Then everything clicked into place with horrible crystal clarity. The insistence from his coworkers, the specific setup, David Kumar hiding in the corner. This wasn't a date. This was a test. They'd set him up with a deaf woman to see how he'd react, to catch him being uncomfortable, making excuses, revealing that his reputation as a kind, patient, genuine person was nothing but performance. They probably had cameras hidden somewhere, recording every moment of his anticipated failure. Rage flared in his chest, hot and immediate. But it was immediately followed by something else. A wave of protective fury on behalf of the woman standing in front of him, who had no idea she was being used as a prop in someone else's cruel social experiment. The woman's hands moved again, slower this time, her expression shifting toward uncertainty as Ethan failed to respond. And then Ethan did something his coworkers never anticipated. He smiled, genuinely smiled, and his hands moved in response, signing with the fluent ease of someone who'd grown up with the language. "Hi, I'm Ethan. It's wonderful to meet you." The woman's eyes widened in shock. Her hands froze mid-gesture, her mouth opening slightly in surprise. From the corner of his eye, Ethan saw movement behind the fern, David nearly knocking over his coffee. You know sign language?" Her hands moved with increasing excitement, her whole posture transforming from guarded to genuinely surprised. "My mother is deaf," Ethan signed, still maintaining eye contact, still smiling. "I grew up signing. It's as natural as speaking to me." "I'm Lily Harper." Her hands shaped her name with graceful precision. "I have to admit I was told this might be awkward, that you might not know I was deaf until I arrived." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly, but he kept his expression neutral. "Were you told anything else about how this date was set up?" Lily's hands hesitated. "Just that a friend of a friend knew someone who might be interested." "Why? Is something wrong?" "Let's sit down first," Ethan signed. "There are some things I need to tell you, but first, I need you to know something." What? This? Ethan gestured between them. Whatever happens next, whatever you learn about how we ended up here, I want you to know that I'm genuinely glad to meet you. And I'm genuinely interested in having coffee with you. Not because someone set this up, but because you seem like someone worth knowing. Lily studied his face for a long moment, her dark eyes searching for deception. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied her because she nodded slowly and signed, "Okay, let's sit." They chose a table by the window, deliberately away from the corner where David was hiding, though Ethan noted at least two other familiar faces trying to blend into the cafe's atmosphere. Jennifer Watts was at the counter, supposedly waiting for a to-go order. Marcus Chen was outside, walking past the window for the third time. It would have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating. "How do you take your coffee?" Ethan signed. "Black with 1 sugar, but I can get it myself. But please, let me." Ethan stood, then paused. "Unless that's too presumptuous, I don't want to assume you need help with anything." Lily's expression softened into something that might have been the beginning of a smile. "You can get my coffee. Thank you." Ethan walked to the counter, very deliberately making eye contact with Jennifer as he passed. She had the grace to look embarrassed, her cheeks flushing as she suddenly became very interested in her phone. He ordered 2 coffees, paid, and returned to the table with both cups. "So," Lily signed after taking a sip, "what did you need to tell me?" Ethan took a breath. This was it. The moment where he either played along with his coworker's game or chose honesty, regardless of the consequences. But really, there was no choice at all. "This date was set up by my coworkers as a test. They didn't think I knew you were deaf. They expected me to be uncomfortable, to make excuses, to prove that my reputation as a decent person was fake. There are at least 3 of them in this cafe right now, probably recording us." Lily's hands froze mid-reach for her coffee cup. Her expression cycled through shock, hurt, and then settling into something harder, more guarded. "Are you serious?" "Completely. And I'm furious about it. Not because they set me up, I can deal with that, but because they used you. They treated you like a prop in their social experiment, and that's unforgivable." "Which ones are they?" Lily's signs were sharp now, angry. Ethan glanced around the cafe with deliberate casualness. "Corner table behind the fern, that's David. Woman at the counter pretending to wait for coffee, Jennifer. The guy who keeps walking past the window, Marcus. There might be others." Lily's hands moved in what Ethan recognized as a very creative series of signs that didn't need translation. Then she looked directly at him, her expression intense. "And what about you? Are you part of this?" "No. I agreed to a blind date because my 7-year-old daughter and my mother convinced me I needed to start living again. I had no idea what my coworkers were planning until you arrived and I saw David hiding in the corner." "So what happens now?" Lily signed, her hands still tight with anger. "Do we leave? Give them the satisfaction of ruining this?" Ethan met her eyes and found himself smiling, not the polite professional smile he wore at work, but something genuine and slightly reckless. "Or we could stay, have an actual conversation, get to know each other. Not because someone's watching, but in spite of it." "Why would you want to do that?" "Because in the 30 seconds before I realized what was happening, my first thought when I saw you wasn't, 'Oh no, she's deaf.' It was, 'She looks interesting.' And because I've spent 3 years building walls around myself and my daughter, and those walls are starting to feel more like a prison than protection." Lily studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, something in her posture relaxed. "Okay, let's have coffee. But if you're playing some elaborate game, I will make sure everyone in this cafe knows exactly what kind of person you are." "Fair enough. Same goes for you." That earned him an actual smile. Small, but real. Lily picked up her coffee cup and signed with her free hand. "So, Ethan Cole, who grew up with a deaf mother and apparently has a 7-year-old daughter. Tell me something real about yourself, something you wouldn't put on a dating profile." Ethan thought for a moment, then signed. "I still set a place for my late wife at dinner sometimes. Not because I forget she's gone, but because it makes Emma feel like her mother's still part of our family, even though Sarah died when Emma was 3 and she barely remembers her." The raw honesty of the statement hung between them. Lily's expression softened completely, the last of her defensive walls lowering. I'm sorry, that must be incredibly hard. It is, but it's also beautiful in a way. Emma keeps Sarah alive through stories and questions, and the place setting we never use. It's her way of knowing her mother. Ethan paused, then added, Your turn. Something real. Lily set down her coffee cup, and her hands moved with careful deliberation. I've been on 17 first dates in the past 2 years. 16 of them ended within 30 minutes with some variation of, this isn't going to work, or I don't think we're compatible. The only one that lasted longer ended when the guy spent 2 hours talking at me, literally talking out loud to himself while I sat there, because he forgot I was deaf and couldn't understand him. That's horrible. That's reality. Most hearing people don't know how to handle dating someone who's deaf. They either treat me like I'm fragile and need protecting, or they see my deafness as an interesting challenge to overcome. Very few people just see me. What do you do? Ethan signed. For work, I mean. I'm a graphic designer, freelance mostly. I work from home, which is both perfect and isolating. Lily's hands moved with increasing comfort, her signs becoming more fluid and expressive. I design book covers, marketing materials, brand identities. The work is good. The solitude is complicated. I can imagine. I work in corporate finance, which should be collaborative, but mostly involves people pretending to listen while checking their phones. Different kind of isolation. Is that what your coworkers are like? The ones currently spying on us? Ethan glanced toward David's corner, noting that his colleague had given up any pretense of subtlety and was openly staring. They're complicated. We've worked together for years. They threw me a surprise party when Emma was born. They sent flowers when Sarah died. They helped me navigate single parenthood, but somewhere along the way they stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as a character in their ongoing office drama. What kind of character? The perfect single dad, patient, kind, never complaining. They put me on a pedestal, and now they're testing to see if I'll fall off. Are you? Lily signed, her eyes sharp and assessing. As perfect as they think? God, no. I'm exhausted 90% of the time. I burn dinner twice a week. I let Emma watch too much TV because I need 20 minutes of silence to remember who I am outside of being dad. I'm holding everything together with duct tape and determination, and some days I'm not sure which will run out first. The honesty in the statement seemed to surprise both of them. Lily's hands moved slowly, deliberately. That's the realest thing anyone said to me on a first date. Ever. Good real or bad real? Good. Definitely good. Lily picked up her coffee, took a sip, then signed with one hand, Tell me about Emma. What's she like? And just like that, the conversation shifted from defensive strangers to something else entirely. Ethan talked about Emma's obsession with dinosaurs, her tendency to organize her stuffed animals by taxonomy, her fierce protectiveness of kids being bullied at school. Lily talked about growing up in a hearing family that tried, but never quite managed to make her feel fully included, about finding community in the deaf world, about the art that spoke louder than any words. They talked about Sarah, not as a ghost haunting the conversation, but as a person who'd existed and been loved and left a daughter who needed to know her story. Lily talked about her ex-boyfriend who'd left when he realized dating someone deaf meant actually learning to communicate differently, about the relief and loneliness that came with that ending. An hour passed. Then another. The cafe began to empty, their coworkers gradually giving up their surveillance and slinking away. Ethan saw Marcus leave with an expression that was hard to read. Not quite triumph, not quite disappointment. Jennifer had disappeared at some point without him noticing. Only David remained, and eventually even he gathered his things and walked out, catching Ethan's eye with a small nod that might have been respect or might have been acknowledgement of defeat. They're gone, Lily signed, glancing around the nearly empty cafe. Your audience left. Good. This was never for them anyway. What was it for? Ethan considered the question, really thought about it. Honestly, I didn't know when I walked in here. My daughter pushed me to come. My mother threatened me with dating apps. I was doing this for them, to prove I was trying. But now? Now? Lily's hand shaped the question with something that looked like hope. Now I'm here because I want to be. Because you're the first person in 3 years who's made me remember what it feels like to be interested in someone. Not just as Emma's dad or Sarah's widower, but as myself. Lily's hands remained still for a long moment, her expression cycling through several emotions too quick to name. Finally, she signed, I should tell you something. When I agreed to this date, I almost canceled, 3 times, because I was tired of the disappointment, tired of hearing people realize that dating someone deaf is harder than they thought. I came tonight expecting the worst. And you've surprised me at every turn. The way you didn't hesitate when you saw me signing, the way you told me the truth about your coworkers instead of playing along, the way you talk about your daughter and your late wife, not hiding from grief, but not drowning in it either. Is that good? Lily smiled, a real smile that transformed her whole face. That's very good. Scary good. The kind of good that makes me want to see you again and also want to run away before I get hurt. I understand that completely. I'm terrified right now. Of what? Of how easy this feels, of how much I want to see you again, of what it means to let someone new into the life Emma and I have built. Ethan's hands moved with careful honesty. But I'm more terrified of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering, what if? The cafe owner appeared at their table, apologetic but firm. I'm sorry, but we're closing in 10 minutes. Ethan glanced at his watch, startled to discover it was past 9. 3 hours had evaporated like minutes. He signed the information to Lily, who looked equally surprised. I should go, she signed, gathering her jacket. I have a client call early tomorrow morning. They stood, suddenly awkward, in a way they hadn't been while sitting. The evening had been suspended in its own reality, but now the outside world was pressing back in with all its complications and consequences. Outside, the October air had turned properly cold. Lily pulled her jacket tighter, and Ethan resisted the urge to offer his own coat, not because it wouldn't be appreciated, but because he didn't want to fall into the trap she'd described, of treating her as fragile. Can I walk you to your car? He signed instead. I'd like that. They walked slowly through the parking lot, neither quite ready for the evening to end. When they reached Lily's car, a practical Honda with a back seat full of art supplies, they both paused, the question of what came next hanging unspoken between them. I'd like to see you again, Ethan signed, if you're interested. I am, but I need you to understand something first. What? Lily's hands moved with deliberate care, shaping each sign with precision. I'm not a test. I'm not a way for you to prove to your coworkers or your daughter or yourself that you're moving on. If we do this, if we see each other again, it has to be because you want to know me, not because I'm convenient or because you're ready to date again in theory, me specifically. I understand. And for what it's worth, I do want to know you specifically. The way you describe color through design, the way your whole face changes when you smile, the way you called out my coworker's bullshit without hesitation. That's what I want to know more about. Lily studied his face in the parking lot's fluorescent lighting, looking for any hint of insincerity. Whatever she found satisfied her because she nodded slowly and signed, Okay, let's try this. But slowly. Slowly works for me. I have a 7-year-old who comes first, and I'm not going to introduce her to someone unless I'm sure. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Lily pulled out her phone, typed quickly, then showed him the screen. My number. Text me when you get home so I know you made it safely. Ethan pulled out his own phone, saved the contact, then signed, I will. And Lily? Yes? Thank you for giving tonight a chance despite everything, for being honest with me, for being you. She smiled that transformative smile again, then signed, Thank you for seeing me. Actually seeing me. That's rarer than you'd think. She got in her car and Ethan watched her drive away, his heart doing something complicated in his chest that felt like hope and terror in equal measure. He pulled out his phone, intending to text his mother that he was on his way to pick up Emma, and noticed 17 missed calls and 34 text messages. The messages were from Marcus, Jennifer, and David, progressing from excited updates, he's actually using sign language, to confused observations, they're really talking, to something approaching panic, I think he knows we're here, to eventual retreat, we're leaving, call us tomorrow. Ethan deleted them all without responding. Tomorrow would be soon enough to deal with his coworkers and their elaborate schemes. Tonight was still his and Lily's, and the unexpected possibility that had opened up between them. He drove home through empty streets, his mind replaying the evening in fragments, the shock on Lily's face when he'd signed hello, the way her hands moved when she talked about her work, precise and passionate, the honesty in her eyes when she'd asked him to see her, really see her. His mother was waiting when he arrived, Emma already asleep on the couch with a book about velociraptors clutched to her chest. "How was it?" his mother signed, her expression carefully neutral. Ethan looked at his sleeping daughter, at his mother's hopeful face, at the life he'd built that suddenly seemed both exactly right and completely ready for something new. It was complicated and honest, and I'm seeing her again. His mother's smile was bright enough to light the room. "Good. You deserve that, honey. You deserve to be happy." "I know. I'm starting to believe it." He carried Emma to bed, tucking her in with practiced ease, smoothing her dark hair back from her forehead. She stirred slightly, mumbling something about pterodactyls, then settled back into sleep. Ethan sat on the edge of her bed for a moment, watching her breathe, feeling the weight and wonder of being responsible for this small, perfect person. His phone buzzed with a text. From Lily. "Made it home safely. Thank you for tonight. Despite the rocky start, it ended up being the best first date I've had in 2 years. Sleep well." Ethan typed back, "Thank you for giving it, and me, a chance. I haven't stopped smiling since you drove away. That's your fault. Sweet dreams." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "I'll take responsibility for that. Good night, Ethan." He set his phone down, kissed Emma's forehead, and walked to his own room feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Not quite happiness, that seemed too simple, but possibility. The sense that his life might be bigger than he'd let himself imagine, that there might be room for Emma and his memories of Sarah and something new all at the same time. Tomorrow he'd face his coworkers. Tomorrow he'd have difficult conversations about boundaries and respect and the cruelty of testing people. Tomorrow he'd have to figure out how to navigate dating as a single father with a daughter who needed stability and a heart that was just beginning to remember how to risk itself. But tonight, he let himself sit with the simple truth that he'd met someone interesting, someone who challenged him, who saw through pretense, who understood isolation and chose connection anyway. Someone whose smile had stayed with him through the drive home and was following him into sleep. Somewhere across the city, Lily Harper was having similar thoughts, her mind replaying signs and smiles and the unexpected comfort of being truly seen. She'd gone to that cafe expecting disappointment, braced for another variation on rejection, prepared to add date number 18 to her list of failures. Instead, she'd found someone who spoke her language, literally and figuratively. Someone who'd chosen honesty over comfort, who'd protected her even while revealing the truth. Someone whose grief had made him gentler rather than bitter, whose daughter clearly came first but who'd still made space for possibility. It was terrifying. It was hopeful. It was the kind of beginning that could lead anywhere, to more disappointment, to genuine connection, to something neither of them had quite dared to imagine. But for tonight, it was enough to have met, to have talked, to have made each other smile. Everything else, the complicated conversations, the meeting of daughter and potential someone important, the navigation of 2 lives learning to orbit each other, all of that could wait. For tonight, there was just the memory of coffee and signs and the unexpected grace of being seen exactly as you are. The following morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn sunshine that made everything feel sharper, more vivid. Ethan woke before his alarm, his mind already replaying the previous evening in careful detail. He lay there for a moment, testing the feeling in his chest, the mixture of anticipation and nervousness that he'd almost forgotten existed. Emma appeared in his doorway at 6:30, already dressed in mismatched clothes she'd clearly chosen herself. "Did you have fun on your date?" Ethan sat up, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "I did. Come here." She climbed onto the bed, settling against his side with the easy comfort of a child who'd never doubted her place in the world. "Was she nice?" She was interesting, smart, funny, a little scary in a good way. Scary how? The kind of person who tells the truth even when it's uncomfortable. who doesn't let people get away with being fake. Emma considered this seriously. Like you. Maybe a little, but better at it. Are you going to see her again? Ethan pulled his daughter closer, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. I'd like to, if that's okay with you. Of course it's okay. I told you to go, didn't I? Emma's voice carried that particular 7-year-old certainty that brooked no argument. When do I get to meet her? Whoa, slow down. We've had one date. Let's see if there's a second one before we start planning introductions. There will be. Emma spoke with the absolute confidence of someone who'd decided how the universe should work and expected it to comply. You smiled when you came home last night. Really smiled. I saw. Ethan couldn't argue with that. He had smiled, was still smiling. Get your breakfast. We need to leave in 20 minutes. The morning routine unfolded with its usual organized chaos: cereal and toast, backpack checks, the daily hunt for Emma's other shoe that somehow always migrated during the night. Ethan dropped her at school, watching her run toward her best friend with that particular galloping enthusiasm unique to elementary-age children, then drove to work with a sense of impending confrontation settling over him. The office was already buzzing when he arrived. He could see Marcus, Jennifer, and David huddled in the break room, their conversation stopping abruptly when they noticed him. Ethan hung up his coat with deliberate care, opened his laptop, and began reviewing emails as if it were any ordinary Tuesday. He made it approximately 45 minutes before Marcus appeared at his desk. So, Marcus pulled up a chair, his expression somewhere between sheepish and defiant. We need to talk about last night. Do we? Ethan didn't look up from his screen. Come on, Cole, don't be like that. Like what? Like someone who discovered his coworker set up an elaborate test to see if he'd fail at basic human decency? Marcus had the grace to wince. When you put it like that, how else should I put it? Ethan finally looked up, his expression calm but his eyes hard. You set me up with a deaf woman specifically to watch me be uncomfortable. You hid cameras, you spied on us, you turned another human being into a prop for your entertainment. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Look, you have to understand, you're always so perfect. Perfect dad, perfect employee, never complaining, never asking for help. It's intimidating. We just wanted to see if you were real or if it was all an act. So you decided to test me, without my knowledge or consent, and without any consideration for the woman you were using. We thought you'd cancel. When you realized she was deaf, we thought you'd make some excuse and leave, and we'd finally have proof that you're not as great as everyone thinks. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying Marcus with an expression that made his coworker squirm. And what exactly were you planning to do with that proof? I don't know. Show people you're human, I guess. That you're not some saint. I've never claimed to be a saint. I'm a widowed father doing my best. That's it. And if you'd ever asked instead of scheming, I would have told you about all the ways I'm failing. The dinners I burn, the parent-teacher conferences I'm late to, the nights Emma goes to bed without a proper bath because I'm too exhausted to fight her. I'm barely holding it together most days, Marcus. But apparently, you needed proof. Jennifer appeared behind Marcus, her expression genuinely remorseful. Ethan, we're sorry. We really are. It was a stupid idea that went way too far. It wasn't stupid. It was cruel. You involved an innocent person in your game, someone who's probably dealt with enough discrimination and condescension without you adding to it. We didn't think about that, David said, joining the group gathering at Ethan's desk. We were so focused on testing you that we didn't consider how it would affect her. That's exactly the problem. Ethan's voice was quiet, but it carried. Other coworkers were starting to notice the conversation, turning toward them with curious expressions. You saw a deaf woman and immediately thought uncomfortable situation instead of human being. You made assumptions about what I could handle, about what she represented, about everything, and you never once stopped to think about the impact. So what happens now? Marcus asked. Are you going to report us to HR? Ethan considered the question. Part of him wanted them to face real consequences for their actions, but another part, the part that remembered years of friendship, of support through Sarah's death, of genuine care buried under misguided schemes, hesitated. No, I'm not going to HR, but I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to really hear it. Ethan stood, facing all three of them. I am not your entertainment. My life is not a reality show for you to engineer and observe. If you have questions about who I am or what I'm capable of, ask me. Like adults, like friends. But don't ever use another person as a test of my character again. We won't, Jennifer said quickly. I promise, we really are sorry. Sorry to Lily Harper, not to me. She's the one who was used. Marcus frowned. Lily? You're on a first-name basis? Despite everything, Ethan felt a smile tugging at his lips. We talked for 3 hours. Yes, I'm on a first-name basis. In fact, I'm seeing her again this weekend. The three of them stared at him in varying degrees of shock. Wait, David said slowly. You're actually dating her? This wasn't just you being polite. Why would I be polite about dating? Either I'm interested or I'm not. I'm interested. But she's... Marcus stopped himself, but the damage was done. She's what? Ethan's voice dropped to something dangerous. Deaf? Is that what you were going to say? No, I mean, yes, but not like that. I just meant it seems complicated. Life is complicated. Emma is complicated. Grief is complicated. Dating someone who communicates differently is just another kind of complicated. And honestly, after 3 years of everyone telling me what I should feel and when I should move on and who I should be, spending time with someone who just lets me be myself feels remarkably uncomplicated. Jennifer's expression had shifted to something approaching understanding. You really like her. I barely know her, but yes, I really like her, which is why what you did was so unforgivable. You could have ruined something before it even started. But we didn't, Marcus said, his tone almost pleading. You turned it around. You were amazing. The way you just started signing like it was nothing. The way you told her the truth. Stop. Ethan held up a hand. Don't try to turn this into some feel-good story about me overcoming your obstacle. You created a cruel situation. I dealt with it. That doesn't make what you did okay. The four of them stood in awkward silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation settling over them. Finally, David spoke. What can we do to make this right? Apologize to Lily directly, not through me. How? We don't even know how to contact her. Figure it out. You managed to set up a date with her. You can manage an apology. Ethan sat back down, turning to his computer in clear dismissal. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual work to do. They dispersed slowly, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts and his inbox. But he found it impossible to concentrate. His mind kept returning to Lily, the way her hands had moved when she talked about her work, the careful honesty in her eyes when she'd asked him to see her for who she was. His phone buzzed with a text. From Lily, Good morning. I hope your coworkers aren't making today too terrible. He smiled, typing back, They're appropriately embarrassed. How's your morning going? Client loved the designs. Now I'm celebrating with terrible coffee and online shopping I don't need. How's Emma? Dropped her at school. She's already planning when she gets to meet you. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. That's either terrifying or flattering. Maybe both. Definitely both. But she's 7, so you have time before I subject you to the interrogation of a dinosaur-obsessed first grader. I like dinosaurs and interrogation, so when it happens, I'll be ready. Ethan found himself grinning at his phone like a teenager. Are you free Saturday afternoon? There's a museum exhibit I've been meaning to see. Thought you might be interested. The contemporary design retrospective at the Modern? That's the one. I've been trying to get there for weeks. Yes. Definitely yes. 2 o'clock? Perfect. And Ethan? Yes? Thank you. For texting. For asking me out again. For not making me wonder if last night was real. It was real. Is real. See you Saturday. He set his phone down, still smiling, and found Jennifer standing at his desk again. I got her email, she said without preamble. From the friend who set you up. I'm writing an apology. Marcus and David are too. We're going to send them together with an explanation of what we did and why it was wrong. Good. For what it's worth, I'm really glad it worked out, even if we don't deserve for it to have worked out. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Neither do I. I walked in there expecting to suffer through an hour of awkward coffee because my daughter guilted me into it. I didn't expect to meet someone who made me remember what it feels like to be interested in another person. So maybe neither of us deserved it, but it happened anyway. Jennifer smiled. She must be pretty special. She is. And if any of you do anything to mess this up, we're going to have a very different conversation. Understood. We'll behave. Promise. The rest of the day passed in a blur of spreadsheets and conference calls. Ethan forced himself to focus on quarterly reports and budget projections, but his mind kept wandering to Saturday, to museums and conversations, and the terrifying possibility of something new. He picked up Emma from his mother's house that evening, enduring her knowing looks and gentle questions. "So, when do I get to meet this Lily?" his mother signed. "You're as bad as Emma. We've had one date." "And you have another scheduled. That's promising." "It's terrifying is what it is." His mother reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. "Sarah would be happy for you. You know that, right?" Ethan's throat tightened. "I don't know that." "How can I know that?" "Because she loved you, because she wanted you to live a full life, because she would never want you to be alone just because she's gone. It feels like betrayal sometimes, being interested in someone else, laughing with her, wanting to see her again. That's not betrayal, that's healing. And healing doesn't mean forgetting, it just means making room for something new alongside what you've lost." Emma appeared from the living room, launching herself at Ethan with her usual lack of regard for physics. "Can we get ice cream on the way home?" "It's a school night." "Please, we can celebrate your new girlfriend." "She's not my girlfriend. We've had one date." "But she will be. I can tell." Ethan looked at his mother, who was trying very hard not to smile. "Fine. Ice cream. But just this once." They drove to the local ice cream shop, the one Sarah had loved, the one they'd avoided for 2 years after her death because it hurt too much. But tonight, walking through the door with Emma's hand in his, it felt like reclaiming something rather than losing it. Emma ordered her usual, chocolate with rainbow sprinkles, while Ethan got vanilla, simple and safe. They sat at the small table by the window, the same table where Sarah had once sat with Emma in a high chair, both of them covered in melted strawberry ice cream. "Dad?" Emma's voice was careful, the way it got when she was working up to something important. "Yeah, baby?" "If you marry Lily, will she be my new mom?" Ethan nearly choked on his ice cream. "Emma, we've had one date. Marriage is not... But if you did, would she be my mom?" He set down his spoon, giving the question the serious consideration it deserved. "No one could replace your mom. Ever. If, and this is a very big if, something happened with Lily, she wouldn't be your new mom. She'd be someone different, someone additional. Your mom will always be your mom. But I could call her mom if I wanted to. That would be up to you and her. But Emma, we're getting way ahead of ourselves here. I like Lily. I'm going to see her again. That's all I know right now." Emma nodded, apparently satisfied with this answer, and returned to her ice cream. But Ethan sat there, his heart doing complicated things in his chest, wondering how his 7-year-old had managed to articulate the exact fear he'd been avoiding. What did it mean to let someone new into their lives? Not as a replacement for Sarah, but as something additional. What did that look like? How did you honor the past while making room for the future? How did you protect your daughter from potential hurt while also showing her that love was worth risking? He didn't have answers, but for the first time in 3 years, he wanted to find them. Saturday arrived with unseasonable warmth, the kind of October day that felt like summer's last stand before winter took over. Ethan spent the morning in a state of controlled anxiety, changing clothes 3 times before Emma finally intervened. "Dad, the blue shirt. You look nice in blue." "You're 7. How do you know about this?" "Grandma taught me. Girls know things." He wore the blue shirt. The museum was crowded with the weekend art crowd, college students sketching in notebooks, older couples moving slowly through exhibits, families with children who touched everything despite the signs. Ethan arrived 10 minutes early, which gave him plenty of time to second-guess every decision that had led to this moment. Then Lily appeared, walking through the museum's glass doors in jeans and a burgundy sweater, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, and every doubt evaporated. She saw him and smiled, that same transformative expression that had stayed with him since Tuesday. Her hands moved in greeting. "Hi, you're early. So are you." I was nervous. Figured I'd rather be early than late and have you think I stood you up. I wouldn't have thought that. Good, because I've been looking forward to this since you asked. They bought tickets and entered the exhibit, immediately immersed in decades of design evolution. Lily moved through the space with the focused attention of someone who understood not just what she was seeing, but why it mattered. Her hands flew as she explained the significance of certain typefaces, the way color theory had evolved, the relationship between form and function. Ethan watched her more than the exhibits, fascinated by the way her passion transformed her. When she talked about design, every defensive wall came down. She was completely present, completely herself, completely unguarded. "You're not looking at the art," she signed, catching him staring. "I'm looking at something more interesting." She blushed, actually blushed, and signed, "That's a terrible line." "It's the truth. You light up when you talk about this stuff. It's beautiful." "Now you're just trying to make me blush more. Is it working?" "Unfortunately, yes." They moved through the exhibit slowly, stopping at pieces that caught their attention, occasionally sitting on the provided benches to rest and sign more comfortably. An older woman watched them for a moment, her expression soft before approaching. "Excuse me," she said, speaking directly to Ethan while ignoring Lily entirely. "That's so wonderful that you're helping her experience the museum. It's very kind of you." Ethan felt Lily stiffen beside him. He turned to the woman with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm not helping her. We're on a date. And she's experiencing the museum just fine on her own." The woman's face flushed. "Oh, I didn't mean, I just thought you thought wrong." Lily's voice was clear and strong, startling the woman who clearly hadn't expected her to speak. "I'm deaf, not incompetent, and he's not my caretaker. He's someone I'm getting to know because he treats me like a person instead of a charity case." The woman retreated quickly, mumbling apologies. Ethan turned to Lily, ready to apologize for the stranger's assumption, but Lily was already signing. "This is what I meant. This is what I deal with. People who assume deaf means helpless, who talk to whoever I'm with instead of me, who treat my existence as inspirational just because I left my house. That must be exhausting." "It is. But you know what's worse? The hearing people who date me and act like they're doing me a favor, like I should be grateful someone normal is willing to give me a chance. You're not giving anyone a chance. I'm trying to earn one from you." Lily's expression softened. "I know. That's why I'm here. But I need you to understand what you're signing up for. Pun intended." "Tell me." They found a quieter corner of the museum, sitting on a bench in front of an installation about negative space. Lily's hands moved with careful precision as she explained. "Dating as a deaf person means constant translation. Not just language, but culture. I exist between two worlds, the hearing world that doesn't quite know what to do with me, and the deaf world that sometimes sees me as not deaf enough because I can speak. It means dealing with restaurants that won't seat us because they think my deafness will be inconvenient. It means watching movies with terrible captioning or none at all. It means being excluded from casual conversations because group signing is complicated. It means people making assumptions about my intelligence, my capabilities, my entire existence based on one aspect of who I am. And dating adds another layer to all of that. Exactly. Because suddenly I'm asking someone else to navigate this with me, to learn sign language if they don't know it, to deal with strangers' stares and assumptions, to accept that some parts of hearing culture will always be inaccessible to me. That's a lot to ask. Ethan was quiet for a moment, organizing his thoughts. Then his hands moved slow and deliberate. Here's what I know. I'm a widower raising a daughter who barely remembers her mother. I work in a job that pays well but doesn't fulfill me. I have coworkers who just proved they'll test me instead of trusting me. I haven't been on a date in 5 years, and I have no idea what I'm doing. My life is complicated in a dozen different ways that have nothing to do with you. So why add my complications on top of your own? Because when I'm with you, my complications feel manageable. Because you make me laugh. Because you tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Because you're interesting and talented, and you make me want to be better. Not perfect, just better. He paused, then added, "And because Emma asked when she gets to meet you, and my daughter has good instincts about people." Lily's eyes were bright, and he couldn't tell if she was fighting tears or laughter. "That's not fair using your daughter." "I know, I'm shameless." "She really asked about me?" "Multiple times. She's convinced you're going to be important." "What do you think?" Ethan reached out slowly, giving Lily time to pull away, and took her hand. It was the first time they'd touched beyond an initial handshake, and the contact sent electricity up his arm. "I think she might be right. I think I'm terrified of that. And I think I'm going to keep seeing you anyway because the alternative, walking away from this, feels worse than any complication." Lily's fingers tightened around his. "I'm scared too. Of getting hurt. Of getting invested and having you realize this is too hard. Of letting myself hope and being disappointed again." "So what do we do?" "We be honest. We take it slow. We accept that it's going to be complicated and try anyway." She paused, then added, "And maybe we leave this museum and get actual food because I'm starving and I can't have serious conversations on an empty stomach." Ethan laughed, the tension breaking. "Food sounds perfect. What are you in the mood for?" "Surprise me. But nothing fancy. I want to be able to talk without worrying about which fork to use." They ended up at a small Thai restaurant a few blocks from the museum, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and authentic food that burned your mouth in the best way. They ordered too much, sharing dishes between them, their conversation flowing between signs and comfortable silence. "Tell me about Emma," Lily signed between bites of pad thai. "What's she really like?" And Ethan did. He told her about Emma's obsession with dinosaurs that had started at age 4 and never wavered, about her tendency to organize everything, toys, books, rocks she found outside, into elaborate categorical systems, about the way she'd cried for a week when they'd had to leave their old house because it had too many memories of Sarah, and then had turned her new room into a shrine to her mother with photos and drawings and a special shelf for Sarah's favorite books. He told her about Emma's fierceness at school, the way she'd punched a boy who'd been bullying a kid with a stutter, and the complicated conversation they'd had about standing up for people without using violence, about her questions regarding death and heaven and where her mom had gone, questions Ethan still didn't know how to answer. "She sounds remarkable," Lily signed. "She is. She's the best thing I've ever done. The only thing I'm completely sure I got right. You're a good dad. That's obvious. I'm a terrified dad who's making it up as I go along. That's what all good parents do. My parents had 2 hearing kids before me, and they still had no idea what to do with a deaf daughter. They tried. They really did. But they never quite figured out how to include me in everything. I spent my childhood on the outside of family conversations, picking up context clues, missing jokes. They loved me, but they didn't know how to make me feel like I belonged." "Is that why you're so careful about people really seeing you?" "Probably. If your own family can't quite manage it, you learn not to expect it from anyone else." Ethan's hand found hers across the table again. "For what it's worth, I see you. And I want to keep seeing you. All the complications included." Lily's smile was soft, vulnerable in a way he hadn't seen before. "I want that too. It's terrifying, but I want it." They finished dinner as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Walking back to their cars, Ethan felt the weight of the moment, the choice to move forward, to risk himself, to potentially bring someone new into Emma's carefully constructed world. "When you're ready," Lily signed as they reached her car, "I'd like to meet Emma. No rush, but eventually, I'd like to meet the person who's most important to you. And when I'm ready, I'd like to meet your family, your friends, the people who know you best. That might take a while. My circle is small. That's okay. I'm patient." Lily leaned against her car, looking up at him with an expression that was equal parts hope and caution. "What are we doing, Ethan?" "I think we're dating. Officially dating. Is that okay?" "More than okay. But I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If it gets too hard, the communication barriers, the cultural differences, the stares and assumptions, you tell me. You don't just disappear or make excuses. You tell me the truth so we can figure out if it's fixable or if we need to end things. I promise, same goes for you. If I do something ignorant or insensitive, tell me. I can't fix what I don't know about. Deal. They stood there for another moment, neither quite ready to leave. Finally, Ethan leaned down slowly, giving Lily every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met in a kiss that was gentle, tentative, and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Lily's hands moved almost unconsciously. Oh. Good O or bad O? Very good O. Scary good O. I can work with that. He watched her drive away, then sat in his own car for a long moment before starting the engine. His phone showed a text from his mother. How did it go? He typed back, I think I'm in trouble, the good kind. Her response was immediate. About time, bring her to dinner next week. Mom, it's been 2 dates. And? Life's too short to waste time, bring her to dinner. Ethan smiled, shaking his head, and drove home to where Emma was waiting with a dozen questions and expectations he wasn't sure he could meet. But for the first time in 3 years, the uncertainty felt like possibility rather than fear. Emma was already asleep when Ethan arrived home, sprawled across the couch, with her dinosaur book open on her chest, and her grandmother dozing in the armchair nearby. He stood in the doorway for a moment, taking in the scene, this life he'd built from the wreckage of loss, this small family that functioned despite everything missing from it. His mother's eyes opened, and she signed without speaking, careful not to wake Emma. Good date? Very good. Complicated, but good. The best things usually are. She stood, gathering her purse and sweater. She asked about Lily 3 times before falling asleep. You're going to have to give her some answers soon. I know, I'm just not sure what those answers are yet. His mother kissed his cheek, her hand lingering on his face in that maternal gesture that said everything words couldn't. You'll figure it out. You always do. After she left, Ethan carried Emma to bed, marveling as always at how heavy a sleeping 7-year-old could be. She stirred as he tucked her in, her eyes opening just enough to focus on his face. Did you kiss her? She mumbled, already half back to sleep. That's none of your business, young lady. So, yes. A small smile crossed her face. Good. You should be happy. She was asleep again before he could respond, leaving Ethan standing in her room with his heart doing complicated gymnastics in his chest. The casual acceptance in her voice, the easy assumption that his happiness mattered, it was both comforting and terrifying. The next 2 weeks fell into a pattern that felt simultaneously natural and surreal. Ethan and Lily texted throughout the days, their conversations ranging from mundane updates about work to deeper discussions about family, loss, and the careful architecture of building something new. They saw each other twice more, once for coffee that turned into a 3-hour conversation at a quiet cafe, and once for a walk through the botanical gardens where Lily explained color theory using autumn leaves, and Ethan tried not to stare at the way the sunset caught in her hair. At work, his coworkers maintained a careful distance, their elaborate apology emails to Lily having been met with a response that was gracious but firm. She'd accepted their apology, but made it clear that any future contact should go through Ethan. Marcus had shown Ethan the response with something approaching respect. She's got spine, he'd said. Good for her. Good for you. The 3rd week brought its first real test. Emma had a school concert, one of those chaotic elementary school productions featuring recorders played with more enthusiasm than skill and songs about seasons sung slightly off-key. Ethan had mentioned it to Lily in passing, not as an invitation, but simply as explanation for why he couldn't meet her that Thursday evening. Her response had been immediate. Can I come? To the concert? He'd stared at the text for a full minute, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. This was the threshold, the moment where Lily stopped being someone he was dating in the abstract and became someone entering Emma's world. Once crossed, there was no going back without consequences. Are you sure? Elementary school concerts are basically controlled chaos. I'm sure. I'd like to see Emma's world, if you're comfortable with that. Let me talk to Emma first, make sure she's okay with it. That conversation happened over dinner that evening, Emma's spaghetti sauce somehow ending up in her hair despite Ethan's best supervisory efforts. So there's something I wanted to ask you about, Ethan said, aiming for casual and probably missing by a mile. Emma's fork paused midway to her mouth. Is this about Lily? How did you... Never mind. Yes, it's about Lily. Is she coming to my concert? How do you keep doing that? Emma shrugged with 7-year-old wisdom. You get all weird when you talk about her. Your voice goes funny. My voice does not go funny. Does too. So is she coming? She asked if she could, but I wanted to make sure you were okay with it first. It's your concert. Emma considered this seriously, twirling spaghetti around her fork with meticulous care. Will she sit with you? Probably, yes. Will people think she's my mom? The question landed like a stone in Ethan's chest. Maybe. Some people might assume that. Would that bother you? I don't know. Emma's voice had gone small, uncertain. What if I like it? Is that bad? Because of Mom? Ethan moved his chair closer to hers, pulling her into a sideways hug that got spaghetti sauce on his sleeve. Baby, listen to me. Your mom will always be your mom. Always. Nothing and no one can change that. If Lily becomes part of our lives, she'll be something different, something additional. You can care about her without it meaning anything bad about your mom. Promise? Promise. Your mom would want you to have people in your life who care about you, who show up for your concerts and help with homework and make you laugh. That's not replacing her. That's honoring what she wanted for you. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing this with the seriousness she brought to everything important. Okay, she can come, but Dad? Yeah? If she doesn't like my recorder playing, I don't think we can keep her. Ethan laughed, the tension breaking. That's fair. I'll let her know the stakes. Thursday evening arrived with the kind of nervous energy that made Ethan change shirts twice and check his teeth 3 times. Emma watched his preparations with barely concealed amusement. Dad, you're being weird again. I am not. You've checked your hair 4 times. It looks the same as always. Thank you for that stunning endorsement. They arrived at the school early, Ethan's eyes scanning the parking lot for Lily's car, even as he told himself to relax. Emma's hand found his, squeezing with reassurance that should have been going the other direction. It's going to be fine, Dad. She already likes you. How do you know? Because she keeps wanting to see you. That's what liking someone means. They were halfway to the auditorium entrance when Ethan spotted Lily walking across the parking lot. She wore a blue dress with a cardigan, her hair in a braid, and she looked nervous in a way that made Ethan's own anxiety ease slightly. At least he wasn't the only one terrified of this moment. Emma saw her at the same time and went completely still. Ethan felt his daughter's hand tighten in his, felt the weight of this introduction settling over both of them. That's her? Emma whispered. That's her. You okay? She's pretty. Yes, she is. And she's nervous. Look at her hands. Ethan glanced down and realized Emma was right. Lily's hands were fidgeting with her purse strap, a gesture he'd learned meant she was anxious. The observation from his 7-year-old was both astute and touching. Lily reached them, her eyes moving from Ethan to Emma and back again. Her hands moved in greeting. Hi, you must be Emma. I've heard so much about you. Emma stared at the signs, then looked up at Ethan with wide eyes. He translated quietly, then asked, Do you want to try signing back? His daughter nodded, her expression determined. She turned to Lily and carefully shaped the signs Ethan had been teaching her over the past week. Hi, nice to meet you. The look on Lily's face was worth every moment of anxiety. Pure joy mixed with surprise, her whole expression softening as she watched Emma's careful signs. You've been learning? Lily's hands moved quickly, and Ethan translated before Emma could get lost. Dad's been teaching me. I'm not very good yet. You're wonderful, Lily signed, and even without translation, Emma seemed to understand the sentiment. I'm so happy to meet you. They walked into the school together, an awkward trio trying to figure out how to navigate this new configuration. Emma kept glancing up at Lily, her expression cycling between curiosity and careful assessment. Other parents noticed, their eyes tracking the small family unit with varying degrees of interest and assumption. Mrs. Patterson, Emma's teacher, approached with a bright smile. Ethan, so glad you made it. And you must be Emma's mother. I'm so happy to finally meet you. The words hung in the air like a grenade. Ethan felt Emma tense beside him, saw Lily's expression shift to something carefully neutral. This is Lily, Ethan said evenly. A friend. Emma's mother passed away 4 years ago. Mrs. Patterson's face went through several shades of mortification. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I just assumed—" "It's fine," Lily said, her voice clear and calm. "Easy mistake." But it wasn't fine. Not really. Ethan could see it in the set of Lily's shoulders, in the way Emma's hand had found his again, in the careful distance that had opened up between them. The first assumption of many, the first awkward moment of what would likely be hundreds. They found seats near the back, Emma disappearing to join her class backstage. Ethan and Lily sat side by side, the empty seat between them feeling simultaneously too much space and not enough. "I'm sorry," Ethan signed. "People are going to assume things." "I know, it's okay." "Is it? Really?" Lily turned to look at him, her expression complex. "It's going to happen. I knew that coming here. People will assume I'm her mother or her interpreter or some other role that makes sense to them. The question is whether we can handle that without it destroying what we're building." "Can we?" "I don't know yet. Ask me after the concert." The lights dimmed before Ethan could respond, and the chaos of an elementary school concert began. Emma's class was third in the lineup, a small mercy that meant they didn't have to endure too much off-key singing before seeing her. When she walked onto the stage, Ethan felt his chest tighten, with the familiar mixture of pride and protective love that parenthood had burned into his bones. She found them in the audience immediately, her eyes locking on Ethan first, and then sliding to Lily with unmistakable curiosity. Ethan gave her a thumbs up, and after a moment's hesitation, Lily did the same. Emma's smile could have powered the whole auditorium. The performance was exactly as chaotic as promised. Recorders screeched, children forgot lyrics, one boy knocked over a music stand. Emma played her part with intense concentration. Her small face screwed up in focus, her fingers moving on the recorder with determination, if not precision. Lily's hand found Ethan's during the performance, her fingers threading through his with careful intention. He glanced at her and saw tears on her cheeks, her expression a mixture of emotions too complex to name. "What's wrong?" he signed with his free hand. "Nothing's wrong. This is what families do. Show up for each other, support each other. I haven't had this in a long time." "You have it now, if you want it." Her fingers tightened around his. "I want it. I'm scared of it, but I want it." The concert ended with enthusiastic, if slightly off-tempo applause. Children poured off the stage, finding their parents in the crowd. Emma launched herself at Ethan with typical 7-year-old velocity, nearly knocking him over. "Did you see me? Did you see? I didn't mess up." "You were perfect, baby. Absolutely perfect." Emma pulled back, then turned to Lily with shy determination. "Did you like it?" Lily knelt down to Emma's level, bringing herself to eye height. Her hands moved slowly, clearly, giving Emma time to process each sign. "You were amazing. The best recorder player up there." Emma beamed, then signed back carefully. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for letting me come. This was special." They stood there in the crowded hallway, other families flowing around them, and something shifted. Not into place exactly. This was still too new, too uncertain for that, but into possibility, into the shape of what could be if they were brave enough to keep trying. "Ice cream?" Ethan suggested. "I think this performance deserves celebration." Emma looked up at Lily, her expression suddenly vulnerable. "Will you come?" Lily glanced at Ethan, a silent question in her eyes. He nodded, and she turned back to Emma with a smile. "I'd love to, if your dad doesn't mind." "Dad never minds ice cream," Emma said with absolute certainty. "It's basically his favorite food group." They ended up at the same ice cream shop Ethan and Emma had visited weeks before. The three of them crowded around the small table by the window. Emma ordered her usual chocolate with rainbow sprinkles, still chattering about the concert, about her friend Madison, who'd forgotten all the words to the second song, about how Mr. Chen had told them they were the best third-grade class he'd ever taught. Lily watched Emma with an expression that made Ethan's heart do uncomfortable things. There was genuine affection there, mixed with caution, mixed with the clear desire to get this right. "Do you have any kids?" Emma asked suddenly, with the blunt curiosity unique to children. "Emma," Ethan said warningly. "What? I'm just asking." Lily's hands moved and Ethan translated. No, I don't have kids, but I have a nephew who's about your age. His name is Tyler and he's obsessed with soccer. I like soccer. Well, I like dinosaurs more, but soccer's okay. Your dad mentioned you really love dinosaurs. What's your favorite? Emma launched into an enthusiastic explanation of why velociraptors were superior to all other dinosaurs, a lecture she'd perfected over years of practice. Lily listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed she was actually paying attention. Watching them, Ethan felt something in his chest expand and contract simultaneously, hope and terror in equal measure. Can Lily come to dinner at Grandma's? Emma asked as they were finishing their ice cream. Grandma keeps asking when she gets to meet her. Ethan nearly choked on his vanilla. Emma, we don't invite people to other people's houses. Why not? Grandma said to bring her. When did Grandma say that? Last week. She said you were being slow and I should help move things along. Lily was trying very hard not to laugh, her shoulders shaking with suppressed amusement. Ethan looked at his daughter, at her innocent expression that wasn't quite as innocent as she pretended, and felt the last of his careful control over the situation slip away. Lily, he signed with exaggerated formality, would you like to have dinner with my mother, my daughter, and me? Sometime in the near future, with advance warning and proper invitation protocols? I would love to, Lily signed back, her eyes dancing with amusement. As long as your mother doesn't mind being ambushed by her granddaughter's matchmaking. Oh, she'll love it. She's been managing my life since I was born. This will make her year. They walked to the parking lot together, Emma holding both their hands and swinging between them with unself-conscious joy. Other parents from the concert noticed, their expressions ranging from curiosity to knowing smiles to occasional disapproval. Ethan felt Lily's hand tighten in his during those moments, felt her awareness of being observed and judged. At Lily's car, Emma released their hands and signed carefully to Lily. Thank you for coming tonight. It meant a lot. The signs were imperfect, her fingers not quite forming the shapes correctly, but the sentiment was clear. Lily's eyes filled with tears again, and she signed back, Thank you for letting me be here. You're a remarkable person, Emma Cole. I know, Emma said with typical 7-year-old confidence, then threw her arms around Lily's waist in a quick hug before running back to Ethan's car. Lily and Ethan stood alone for a moment, the parking lot nearly empty now, the night air cool around them. That was, Ethan started. Terrifying and wonderful, Lily finished. Your daughter is incredible. She likes you, really likes you. I like her too, which makes this more complicated. How so? Lily leaned against her car, her expression serious. Because now it's not just about you and me. It's about her, about not hurting her if this doesn't work out, about being responsible to a child who's already lost one mother. I know, I've been thinking about that constantly. And I think we take it slow. We're honest with each other and with Emma. We don't make promises we can't keep, but we also don't run away because we're scared. That's a lot of maturity for someone who just 3 weeks ago hadn't been on a date in 5 years. Parenthood accelerates personal growth. You learn to navigate impossible situations because a small person is counting on you. Lily reached out, her fingers brushing his cheek. I want this to work. I want to be part of your lives. But I need you to promise me something. What? If it becomes too much, the communication barriers, Emma's needs, the complexity of blending into an established family, you tell me. You don't just pull away or make excuses. You tell me the truth. I promise, same goes for you. Deal. They kissed goodnight, soft and sweet and full of promise, before Lily drove away. Ethan returned to his car, where Emma was waiting with a knowing smile. You really like her, don't you, Dad? Yeah, baby, I really do. Good, because I think she's perfect for us. Us? Well, yeah. If you're dating someone, they have to be good for both of us. That's how it works. Ethan pulled out of the parking lot, marveling at his daughter's wisdom. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't always pay attention. The following week brought dinner at his mother's house, an event Ethan approached with approximately the same level of anxiety as a root canal. His mother had been vibrating with excitement since he'd confirmed Lily was coming, And he had visions of elaborate interrogations and embarrassing childhood stories. Please, he signed to his mother as they prepared dinner together, Emma helping by arranging vegetables into dinosaur shapes on the cutting board. Please don't overwhelm her. I'm not going to overwhelm anyone. I'm just going to get to know the woman my son is dating. That's what worries me. Ethan, I raised you. I know how to talk to people without scaring them away. You once interrogated Sarah about her intentions for 20 minutes before she'd even taken off her coat. And she appreciated my directness, said it was refreshing. Sarah was a saint. Lily might not have the same tolerance. His mother stopped chopping carrots and looked at him seriously. You really care about her? Yes, which is why I don't want you to scare her off. Then you should trust that I want you to be happy, that I want Emma to have more people who care about her, that I'm capable of being welcoming instead of terrifying. Emma looked up from her vegetable arrangement. Grandma's not terrifying, she's just enthusiastic. Thank you, sweetheart. See, Ethan, even a 7-year-old understands. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock because Lily was the kind of person who valued punctuality. Emma raced to answer it, flinging the door open with dramatic flair. Hi, welcome to Grandma's house. I helped make dinner. Lily stood on the doorstep holding a bottle of wine and a bouquet of flowers, looking nervous in a way that made Ethan want to wrap her in his arms and promise everything would be fine. She signed hello to Emma, then stepped inside, her eyes immediately finding Ethan. Survived the gauntlet of meeting the family, she signed. That's what this is, right? Something like that, though my mother would prefer the term warm welcome. Ethan's mother appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron, her face breaking into a warm smile. Her hands moved in greeting, fluid and natural. Lily, I'm so glad you could come. I'm Carol. Lily's surprise was visible. You sign. Of course I sign. I'm deaf, dear. Has Ethan not mentioned that? He said he grew up signing because of you, but I assumed I didn't realize. Carol laughed, the sound rich and warm. Most people assume wrong. Come in, come in. Emma, take Lily's jacket. Ethan, stop hovering like an anxious mother hen. Dinner was surprisingly easy. Carol asked questions, but they were gentle, interested rather than interrogatory. She wanted to know about Lily's work, her family, how she and Ethan had met. When Lily explained about the blind date setup, Carol's expression shifted to fury. Those co-workers of yours, she signed to Ethan with sharp, angry movements. I should have known they'd pull something like that. It's okay, Lily signed. They apologized. And if they hadn't set it up, I wouldn't have met Ethan. Still, using you as a test, unconscionable. Emma, who'd been following the conversation with intense focus, suddenly asked, What's unconscionable mean? It means very, very wrong, Carol signed, then spoke aloud for emphasis. The kind of wrong that deserves consequences. They got consequences, Ethan said. I made sure of it. Lily's hand found his under the table, squeezing gently. The gesture wasn't lost on Carol, whose expression softened into something knowing. Tell me about your family, Carol signed to Lily. Are they local? My parents live about 2 hours north. I have 2 older brothers, both married with kids. We're complicated. How so? Lily hesitated, glancing at Emma, who was making elaborate patterns with her mashed potatoes. They love me. They tried. But they never quite figured out how to make me feel fully included. I was always on the outside of conversations, trying to keep up, missing half of what was said. Carol's expression was understanding. The isolation of being the only deaf person in a hearing family. I know it well. You do? I grew up in a hearing family too. Didn't meet another deaf person until I was 16. It was like finding water in a desert. Lily's eyes were bright. Exactly. That's exactly what it was like. Watching them connect over shared experience, Ethan felt something settle in his chest. This wasn't just Lily meeting his mother. This was Lily finding someone who understood her in ways her own family never had. The significance of that moment wasn't lost on him. After dinner, Emma dragged Lily to her room to show her the dinosaur collection, leaving Ethan alone with his mother to clean up. She's wonderful, Carol signed, her hands moving with gentle emphasis. Kind, honest, good for you. I know. But you're scared. Terrified. Of what? Ethan set down the dish he'd been washing, organizing his thoughts. Of getting this wrong, of hurting Emma if it doesn't work out, of hurting Lily, of being so focused on making everyone else okay that I don't notice when I'm drowning. Then don't drown. Ask for help. Let Lily in completely instead of trying to protect everyone from everything. That's easier said than done. Most important things are, Carol dried her hands, then placed them on Ethan's shoulders. Your father died when you were 12. I raised you alone. I know about being scared of letting someone new into an established family, but I also know that isolation masquerading as protection helps no one. What if I'm not ready? Then you tell her. But Ethan, I don't think that's the problem. I think you're more ready than you want to admit, and that's what's really scaring you. Before he could respond, Emma and Lily emerged from the bedroom, Emma talking a mile a minute about Cretaceous period extinction theories. Lily was listening with genuine interest, asking questions, her whole posture engaged. They left Carol's house an hour later, Emma already half asleep in the back seat, Lily following in her own car to where Ethan had parked at his apartment. The night was clear and cold, stars visible despite the city lights. Your mother is wonderful, Lily signed as they stood between their cars. And Emma is remarkable. You've built something beautiful here. We've survived. I'm not sure beautiful is the word I'd use. It is from where I'm standing, a family that communicates, that supports each other, that shows up. That's beautiful. Come here, Ethan signed, then pulled her close. Thank you for tonight, for being patient with Emma's questions, for connecting with my mother, for being you. Thank you for letting me in. I know it's not easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is. They kissed goodnight, Emma stirring in the back seat with impeccable timing. Lily pulled away with a smile, signed goodbye, and drove off into the night. Ethan carried Emma inside, tucking her into bed without bothering to change her clothes. She murmured something about Lily being nice, about wanting to learn more signs, about how Grandma said he was smiling more. Go to sleep, baby, he whispered, kissing her forehead. Dad? Her voice was already thick with sleep. I think Mom would like her. The words hit him square in the chest, stealing his breath. Yeah, baby, I think so too. Good. That's important. She was asleep before he could respond, leaving Ethan sitting in her darkened room with tears on his face and hope blooming painful and bright in his chest. This was real now. Not just dating, not just possibility, but the actual terrifying process of building something new while honoring what had been lost. His phone buzzed with a text from Lily. Made it home. Tonight was perfect. Your family is wonderful. You're wonderful. Sleep well. He typed back. Same. All of it. Sweet dreams. Then he sat in the quiet of his apartment, in the life he'd built from grief and determination, and let himself imagine what it might look like with one more person added to the equation. It was terrifying and beautiful and entirely uncertain. But for the first time since Sarah died, uncertain felt like hope instead of fear. The next 6 weeks unfolded with a rhythm that felt both natural and surreal, like learning to walk after years of standing still. Lily became a fixture in their lives gradually, carefully, with the kind of intentionality that came from understanding the stakes. She joined them for weekend breakfasts at the diner Emma loved, taught Emma new signs over video calls when Ethan was working late, sent random text messages throughout the day that made Ethan smile at his desk. At work, the atmosphere had shifted. His coworkers maintained respectful distance, but there was something else now, a genuine curiosity mixed with what might have been admiration. Marcus approached him one Monday morning with coffee and an unusually serious expression. Can we talk? Marcus set the cup on Ethan's desk, his hands shoved in his pockets. Properly talk, not just awkward apologies? Ethan gestured to the chair across from him. Sure, Marcus sat, looking uncomfortable in a way Ethan had rarely seen. I've been thinking a lot about what we did, the setup, the cameras, all of it, and I realized something. What's that? We tested you because we couldn't believe someone could actually be that decent. We'd convinced ourselves that kindness was performance, that nobody was genuinely good without some angle. Marcus met Ethan's eyes. But you didn't just pass our stupid test. You showed us what actual integrity looks like. You protected Lily even when it would have been easier to play along. You risked your relationships with us to do the right thing. That's not performance. That's character. Ethan was quiet for a moment, processing. I appreciate that. But you should know, I'm not some paragon of virtue. I'm just trying to be someone my daughter can be proud of, someone Sarah would recognize. That's exactly what I mean. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're just trying to be good. That's rare. Maybe. But Marcus, what you guys did, it wasn't just about testing me. It revealed something about how you see people, about your assumptions regarding disability, kindness, human worth. That's what needs to change. Marcus nodded slowly. You're right. I've been examining a lot of my assumptions lately, about deaf people, about relationships, about what makes someone worthy of respect. It's been uncomfortable. Good. Discomfort means you're learning. For what it's worth, Lily seems incredible. The few times I've seen you two together, you look happier than I've seen you in years. Ethan couldn't help the smile that crossed his face. She is incredible and terrifying, and I'm still not entirely sure how I convinced her to give me a chance. By being yourself. Apparently that's enough. After Marcus left, Ethan sat with those words. By being yourself. It sounded simple, but it was perhaps the hardest thing he'd ever done. Allowing someone to see him completely, grief and hope and imperfection all tangled together. That evening brought its first real crisis. Emma had been unusually quiet during dinner, pushing her food around her plate without eating. Ethan watched her with growing concern, noting the tightness around her eyes that usually signaled an emotional storm brewing. What's going on, baby? He asked gently. Emma's fork clattered against her plate. Madison said Lily's not my real family, that she's just your girlfriend, and she doesn't count. Ethan felt anger flash hot in his chest. Madison said that? At recess. She said real families are related by blood, and Lily's just pretending to care about me because she wants to date you. Emma's voice cracked. Is that true? Come here. Ethan pulled Emma into his lap, holding her close. Listen to me very carefully. Family isn't just about blood. Family is about who shows up, who cares, who chooses to be there even when it's hard. But Madison said Madison is 7 years old and doesn't understand how complicated families can be. Some people are related by blood and aren't family at all, and some people choose each other and become family in the truest sense. So Lily is family? Ethan hesitated, aware he was navigating dangerous territory. Lily cares about you very much. She shows up for you. She learns about dinosaurs because they matter to you. She's learning to be part of our lives. Whether that makes her family is something we all get to decide together. I want her to be family, Emma said quietly. Is that okay? That's more than okay, but Emma, you need to understand something. Lily and I are still figuring out what we are to each other. We're taking things slowly because we want to make sure we're building something real and lasting. That means there are no guarantees yet. But you love her, right? The question hung in the air like smoke. Ethan hadn't said those words, hadn't even let himself think them fully. But sitting there with his daughter in his arms, he couldn't lie. I think I'm falling in love with her. But love isn't always enough. We have to make sure we're compatible in all the ways that matter, that we can build a life together that works for everyone. That's very mature, Emma said, sounding eerily like his mother. Where did you learn that word? Grandma. She says you're being very mature about this whole thing, whatever that means. Ethan laughed despite himself. It means I'm overthinking everything and moving at the speed of continental drift. What's continental drift? Ask me when you're older. Right now, I need you to understand that what Madison thinks doesn't matter. What matters is how we feel and how we treat each other. Lily's role in our lives is for us to define, not for Madison or anyone else. Emma nodded against his chest. Can I call her tonight? I want to tell her about the science project we're doing. Sure, after homework. An hour later, Emma was video chatting with Lily, her earlier sadness forgotten as she enthusiastically explained her project on dinosaur migration patterns. Ethan watched from the kitchen, his heart doing complicated things as Lily asked questions and made suggestions and genuinely engaged with his daughter's passion. When Emma finally signed off, Lily sent Ethan a private text. Can we talk? About Emma? He called immediately, and Lily answered on the second ring, her face filling his phone screen. What's wrong? He signed. Nothing's wrong, but Emma seemed upset earlier before she got excited about the project. Did something happen? Ethan explained the playground conversation, watching Lily's expression shift from concern to something harder. Kids can be cruel without meaning to be, she signed. But Ethan, we need to talk about what I am to Emma, what role I'm playing in her life. What do you want that role to be? That's not the right question. The question is what's healthy for her, what's sustainable. I don't want to become important to her and then disappear if this doesn't work out between us. Neither do I. But Lily, you're already important to her. That happened whether we planned it or not. Lily was quiet for a moment, her expression troubled. I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear it. I'm listening. I've never done this before. Never dated someone with a child. Never been in a position where my decisions affect a kid's emotional well-being. It's terrifying. Every time I interact with Emma, I'm aware that I could hurt her, that if we don't work out, she loses another person. I know, I think about that constantly. So what do we do? How do we navigate this responsibly? Ethan took a breath, organizing his thoughts. We're honest, with each other and with Emma. We don't make promises we can't keep. We acknowledge that this is complicated and scary, and we're figuring it out as we go. That's not very reassuring. No, but it's truthful, and I think that's more important than false reassurance. Lily smiled despite the seriousness of the conversation. This is why I'm falling for you. You're incapable of bullshit. The words stopped Ethan's breath. You're falling for me? Did you think you were the only one? Ethan, I'm terrified and invested and already thinking about futures I shouldn't be imagining. That's what falling feels like. Yeah, he signed slowly. Yeah, it is. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of mutual admission settling between them. So what now? Lily finally asked. Now we keep going. Slowly, carefully, honestly. And we trust that if we're doing this for the right reasons, with the right intentions, it'll work out. And if it doesn't, then we handle it like adults. We don't ghost each other. We don't make excuses. We have the hard conversation and we make sure Emma understands it's not her fault. Okay, I can work with that. Lily? Yes? For what it's worth, I'm falling for you too. Have been since the moment you called out my coworker's bullshit without hesitation. I'm just terrified of what that means. Her smile was soft, understanding. Good. Terror means it matters. The following weekend brought an unexpected challenge. Lily invited them to a deaf community event, a gathering at a local community center with food, conversation, and games. It was the first time Ethan would be entering her world rather than her entering his. Are you sure about this? He signed to Lily when she picked them up Saturday afternoon. I don't want to intrude on your community. You're not intruding. You're invited. There's a difference. Emma was vibrating with excitement in the back seat, practicing the new signs Lily had taught her all week. Will there be other kids there? Lots of kids, including my nephew Tyler. I told him all about you. The community center was buzzing when they arrived, the air filled with movement and energy that came from dozens of conversations happening simultaneously in sign language. Ethan felt Emma's hand find his, her earlier excitement giving way to nervousness at being somewhere so unfamiliar. Lily noticed immediately. She knelt down to Emma's level, signing slowly and clearly. I know this is overwhelming, but everyone here is kind, and if you need a break, just tell your dad and we'll find a quiet space, okay? Emma nodded, her grip on Ethan's hand loosening slightly. They moved through the space together, Lily introducing them to friends and family. Ethan found himself constantly translating for Emma, watching her eyes widen as she absorbed this world where sign language was the default rather than the accommodation. Tyler appeared within minutes, a skinny 8-year-old with Lily's dark eyes and boundless energy. He and Emma stared at each other for approximately 3 seconds before Tyler signed, "Want to see my soccer ball?" And they were off, leaving Ethan and Lily with Lily's brother Michael. So you're the guy, Michael said, his sign sharp and quick. The one who's got my sister smiling again. I'm trying, Ethan signed back. You sign well. Where'd you learn? My mother's deaf. I grew up with it. Michael's expression shifted to something more approving. Good. We've seen too many hearing guys who think learning 3 signs makes them boyfriend material. You actually know what you're doing. I know enough to have real conversations. I'm still learning regional variations and slang. Honest, I like that. Michael clapped Ethan on the shoulder. Lily's been alone too long. Good to see her taking a chance on someone. As the afternoon progressed, Ethan found himself relaxing into the environment. He joined a conversation about the challenges of deaf representation in media, helped set up tables for the potluck dinner, watched Emma gradually warm up to the other children until she was playing tag with Tyler and 3 other kids. An older woman approached him during dinner, her signs slow and deliberate. You're Lily's boyfriend? Yes, ma'am. She's special, talented, deserves someone who sees that. I agree completely. But you have a daughter. That's complicated. Ethan met her eyes steadily. Yes, it's very complicated, but some things are worth complicated. The woman studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Good answer. Don't hurt her. I'll do my best not to. Later, as they were preparing to leave, Lily pulled him aside into a quiet corner. How are you doing? I know this was a lot. I'm good. Great, actually. Thank you for bringing us here. Thank you for coming, for being comfortable in my world. A lot of hearing people find this overwhelming. It's not overwhelming. It's beautiful. Watching Emma interact with deaf kids her age, seeing sign language as just normal communication instead of something special, this is good for her, good for both of us. Lily's eyes were bright with emotion. You keep surprising me. Every time I think I have you figured out, you do something that makes me fall harder. Is that a complaint? No, just an observation, and maybe a warning. Warning about what? That I'm getting serious about this, about you, about the possibility of us being real and lasting. Ethan pulled her closer, mindful of the public space but unable to resist. Good. Because I'm already there, have been for weeks. I'm just waiting for my brain to catch up with my heart. They drove home as the sun was setting, Emma asleep in the back seat with Tyler's borrowed soccer ball clutched to her chest. Lily followed them back to Ethan's apartment, helping carry the sleeping child inside. She had a good day, Lily signed quietly as Ethan tucked Emma into bed. She had a great day, thanks to you. Thanks to all of us. This is what it could be like, the 3 of us navigating the world together. Is that what you want? Lily looked at him seriously. I think it might be. But I need to know if you want the same thing, because I can't keep falling without knowing if you're going to catch me. Ethan took her hand, leading her to the living room where they could talk without waking Emma. They sat on the couch, facing each other in the lamplight, and Ethan took a breath before signing. I want this. I want you. I want to see where this goes with complete honesty and intention, but I need to tell you something first. What? I'm scared. Absolutely terrified, not of you, but of getting this wrong, of hurting Emma if it doesn't work, of dishonoring Sarah's memory by moving on, of not being enough for you. You think you're not enough? I'm a widower with a 7-year-old daughter and enough emotional baggage to fill a cargo plane. I work too much, I'm constantly exhausted, and I'm still learning how to be a person instead of just a father. That's a lot to ask someone to take on. Lily's hands moved with fierce intensity. Listen to me. You're not asking me to take on anything. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you and Emma and the complications because you're worth it, because what we have is real, because I've spent enough time settling for people who see me as a challenge or a charity case, and you see me as a person. I do see you, all of you, the talented designer, the fierce woman who doesn't take anyone's crap, the person who's been isolated by her own family and built a community anyway, the one who shows up for a 7-year-old school concert because it matters. Then stop trying to talk me out of this. Let me make my own choices about what I can handle. Okay, you're right. Ethan reached for her face, cupping her cheek gently. I'm falling in love with you. Probably already there, if I'm honest. And that terrifies me because the last time I loved someone, I lost her. I don't know if I can survive that again. Lily's eyes filled with tears. You can't protect yourself from loss by refusing to love. That's not protection. That's just a different kind of dying. I know. My mother said basically the same thing. Smart woman. She likes you, by the way. Said you're good for me. What do you think? Ethan pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. I think you're the best thing that's happened to me since Emma was born. I think you make me remember who I am outside of grief and responsibility. I think you're patient with my daughter and honest with me and brave enough to risk yourself on something uncertain. That's a lot of thinking. I do that. Overthink everything. I've noticed. Lily's hands found his face, her touch gentle. So stop thinking. For once, just feel. He kissed her then, deep and genuine and full of all the emotion he'd been trying to rationalize away. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Lily was smiling. That was worth waiting for, she signed. Sorry it took so long. Don't be. Some things are worth the wait. They sat together in the quiet of Ethan's living room, Lily's head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist, both of them aware that they'd crossed some invisible threshold. This wasn't just dating anymore. This was building something real, something that included Emma and their families and all the complicated, messy, beautiful parts of blending lives. My lease is up in 2 months, Lily said suddenly. Ethan's heart jumped. Okay? I was thinking about looking for a new place, something closer to you and Emma. Not moving in, she added quickly. That's way too soon, but closer. So we don't have to drive 40 minutes every time we want to see each other. I'd like that. A lot. Yeah? Yeah. Emma would too. She's been complaining about how long it takes you to get here. Lily laughed. Of course she has. Your daughter has opinions about everything. That's my fault. I encouraged independent thinking. It's one of the things I love about her. She knows her own mind. They sat in comfortable silence for a while longer, both processing the day and the conversations and the future unfolding before them. Finally, Lily glanced at her phone and sighed. I should go. It's late and I have a client meeting early tomorrow. Okay, text me when you get home. Always do. At the door, they kissed goodnight again, softer this time, full of promise rather than urgency. Ethan? Lily signed as she was leaving. Yeah? Thank you. For today. For being honest. For letting me in. Thank you for being patient with my overthinking. That's part of who you are. I'm not looking to change that. After she left, Ethan checked on Emma one more time, finding her sprawled across the bed in that boneless way only children managed. He sat beside her, watching her breathe, feeling the weight and wonder of being responsible for this small person. Your mom would like her, he whispered into the darkness. I think you'd approve of what we're building. I hope you would. The silence that answered wasn't empty. It was full of memories and loss, and the slow, painful grace of learning to love again. Ethan sat with it all, the grief that never fully left, the hope that was beginning to outweigh the fear, the love that was growing despite his best efforts to control it. His phone buzzed. From Lily. Made it home. Today was perfect. All of it. Sleep well. He typed back, It was perfect. Dream sweet. Then he sat in Emma's room a little longer, letting himself imagine the future. Lily closer, maybe eventually part of their daily lives in ways he was only beginning to envision. Emma growing up with multiple people who loved her, who showed up, who proved that family was about choice as much as biology. Himself learning to be more than just dad, more than just the grieving widower, more than just the careful, controlled person he'd become. The next morning arrived with typical weekend chaos. Emma woke him at 6 by jumping on his bed, full of energy, and questions about when they'd see Lily again. Over breakfast, she peppered him with more questions about the deaf community event, about Tyler, about whether she could take sign language classes instead of just learning from him and Lily. We can look into it, Ethan said, pouring orange juice with one hand while flipping pancakes with the other. But why the sudden interest in formal classes? Because I want to get better. I want to be able to talk to Lily's friends without you having to translate everything. I want to be part of her world, not just visiting it. The casual wisdom of the statement stopped Ethan mid-pancake flip. That's very thoughtful, baby. I like her, Dad, like really like her, and I want her to know that I'm trying, that I care about the things that matter to her. She knows that, But taking classes would be a great way to show her. Emma nodded, satisfied, and returned to her pancakes. Ethan watched her, marveling at her emotional intelligence, her capacity for acceptance, her instinct toward inclusion. Sarah would have been so proud of the person their daughter was becoming. The rest of the weekend passed in comfortable routine. Grocery shopping, laundry, a trip to the park where Emma insisted on teaching him the new signs she'd learned from Tyler. Sunday evening brought homework and bath time and the usual bedtime negotiations. "Dad," Emma said as he was tucking her in, "when you marry Lily, can I be in the wedding?" Ethan's heart stopped. "Emma, we've only been dating for 2 months." "But you will marry her, eventually, right?" "I don't know. Marriage is complicated." "That's what you always say when you don't want to answer." "Because it's true. Lily and I are still figuring out if we work together long term. Marriage is a big step that requires a lot of certainty." "You're certain about loving her." "How do you—" "I heard you telling her yesterday, when you thought I was asleep in the car. The windows were cracked and I wasn't really sleeping." Ethan sighed, realizing he'd been outmaneuvered by a 7-year-old. "Eavesdropping isn't nice." "I wasn't eavesdropping. I was just not sleeping very loudly." Despite everything, Ethan laughed. "Yes, I love her, but love doesn't automatically mean marriage. It means we care about each other and want to keep building something together. But eventually you'll marry her. Because that's what people do when they love each other and want to be together forever." "Maybe. If we both decide that's what we want. If we're sure it's right for all of us, including you." Emma considered this seriously. "I want you to marry her, just so you know. When the time comes, I vote yes." "I'll keep that in mind. Now sleep." "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, baby." Monday morning brought an unexpected message from his boss requesting a meeting. Ethan spent the morning slightly anxious, running through possibilities, wondering if somehow his relationship with Lily or the incident with his coworkers had become an HR issue. Instead, he walked into the conference room to find his boss, Rebecca Chen, smiling. "Relax, Ethan. This is good news. We're promoting you to senior analyst. Better pay, better benefits, more flexibility with your schedule." The news took a moment to process. "I don't understand. I haven't applied for any positions." "You didn't need to. Your work speaks for itself. Plus, Marcus, Jennifer, and David all submitted reports recommending you. They explained the situation with the blind date setup and how you handled it, how you maintained professional integrity while addressing their behavior directly. That kind of leadership is exactly what we need." Ethan sat back processing this information. His coworkers had recommended him. After everything, they'd actively advocated for his advancement. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes. You deserve this, Ethan. You've been carrying this department for years while also being a single parent. It's time we recognize that properly." "Then yes." "Thank you." "Good. We'll make the announcement next week. Take the rest of the day to celebrate. Go home to your daughter, or to that girlfriend Marcus mentioned." Ethan left the office in a daze, his mind spinning with the implications. More money meant better security for Emma. More flexibility meant more time with both her and Lily. The promotion felt like validation of everything he'd been trying to balance. He called Lily immediately. "Hi," she signed when her face appeared on his screen. "Isn't it the middle of your work day?" "I got promoted. Senior analyst, better pay, better hours, more flexibility." Her face lit up with genuine joy. "Ethan, that's amazing. Congratulations. My coworkers recommended me. After everything, they actually went to bat for me." "Because you earned it. Because you're good at what you do and you treat people with respect. Of course they recommended you." "I want to celebrate. Dinner tonight? You, me, and Emma?" "I'd love that. Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself. That's all we need." They met at Emma's favorite restaurant, a family-friendly Italian place with crayons on the tables and a patient staff that didn't mind when kids were loud. Emma bounced in her seat with excitement when she heard about the promotion, already planning how they could spend the extra money. "We could get a bigger apartment," she suggested, "with a room for Lily." Ethan nearly choked on his water. Lily's expression was carefully neutral, but her eyes were dancing with amusement. "Emma, Lily has her own apartment. She doesn't need a room at ours." "But she's looking for a new place anyway. And if she had a room at our place, she'd be closer. She could stay over sometimes. That's not how it works. Why not? Lily's hand found Ethan's under the table, squeezing gently. When Emma excused herself to use the bathroom, Lily signed quickly. She's not wrong, you know. I am looking for a new place. And I have been thinking about how much time I spend driving back and forth. Are you suggesting? No, not yet, but maybe eventually, when we're both ready. I'm just saying I'm open to the possibility. Ethan stared at her, his heart doing complicated gymnastics. You'd consider moving in? Eventually? If it made sense. If we were both certain. If Emma was comfortable with it. There are a lot of ifs, but yes, I'd consider it. That's huge. I know. Which is why I'm saying eventually, not now. But I wanted you to know I'm thinking long-term here. That I'm not just casually dating you. I'm actively imagining futures. Emma returned before Ethan could respond, but he didn't need to. The look that passed between him and Lily said everything necessary. They finished dinner in easy conversation, Emma regaling them with stories from school, Lily sharing about a new client project, Ethan quietly marveling at how normal this felt. How right. 3 people sharing a meal, sharing their lives, building something that felt increasingly solid. Walking to their cars afterward, Emma between them holding both their hands, Ethan felt a wave of gratitude so strong it almost knocked him over. This was what moving forward looked like. Not forgetting Sarah, but making room for new love alongside the old. Not replacing what was lost, but building something different and equally valuable. Thank you, he signed to Lily over Emma's head. For what? For being patient. For being brave enough to risk this. For loving my daughter almost as much as I do. Lily's eyes were bright with emotion. Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me with both of your hearts. Emma looked up at both of them, her expression wise beyond her years. Are you guys being mushy again? Absolutely, Ethan said. Good. Mushy is nice. They said goodnight in the parking lot, Lily heading home while Ethan and Emma drove back to their apartment. The promotion, the dinner, the casual conversation about possible futures, it all swirled together into a sense of possibility that felt both fragile and strong. Dad? Emma said as they were getting ready for bed. I'm really happy right now. Is that okay? Ethan pulled her into a hug, holding tight. That's more than okay, baby. That's exactly what we should be. Even with Mom gone? Especially with Mom gone, she'd want us to be happy, to find joy, to keep living. I think she'd like Lily. I think so too. Emma pulled back, studying his face seriously. You're going to marry her, aren't you? Maybe, if she'll have us. But that's a conversation for another day. Okay, but when you ask her, I want to help. Deal? Deal. That night, after Emma was asleep, Ethan sat in his living room with a glass of wine and his thoughts. The apartment was quiet, the city lights visible through the window, his life spreading before him in ways he was only beginning to understand. His phone buzzed. From Lily. Today was perfect. Thank you for including me in your celebration. I'm so proud of you. He typed back, thank you for being here, for being you, for making me believe in possibilities again. Always. Sleep well. You too. Sweet dreams. He sat there a while longer, holding his phone, feeling the weight and lightness of hope in equal measure. Somewhere in the city, Lily was probably doing the same thing, processing the evening, imagining futures, being brave enough to risk her heart on something uncertain. And maybe that was enough. Maybe hope and honesty and the willingness to try were all they needed. The rest, the timing, the logistics, the careful navigation of blending lives, would work itself out if the foundation was solid. For the first time in 4 years, Ethan let himself believe that might be true. 3 months passed in a blur of ordinary moments that somehow felt extraordinary. Lily found an apartment 15 minutes from Ethan's place, a sunny second-floor unit with exposed brick and enough space for her design work. Emma helped her move in, insisting on organizing Lily's art supplies by color, while Ethan assembled furniture and tried not to think too hard about how domestic this all felt. The promotion brought the promised flexibility, allowing Ethan to pick Emma up from school more often, to attend her soccer games without constantly checking his phone, to breathe in a way he hadn't since Sarah died. He and Lily fell into an easy rhythm, dinners together 3 or 4 nights a week, weekend adventures with Emma, quiet evenings when Emma was at his mother's house where they could just be together without performance or pressure. But beneath the surface calm, Ethan could feel something building. A question that needed asking, a future that needed defining, a commitment that terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. It was his mother who finally called him on it. She arrived one Saturday morning while Lily and Emma were at a sign language class they'd started taking together, letting herself in with the key he'd given her years ago. "We need to talk," she signed without preamble. "Good morning to you too, Mom." "Don't deflect. Sit down." Ethan sat, recognizing the expression on his mother's face. This was going to be one of those conversations whether he wanted it or not. "You're in love with her," Carol signed. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "She's in love with you." "Yes." "Emma adores her." "Yes." "So what are you waiting for?" Ethan ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of frustration his mother knew well. "I don't know. Certainty? Permission? The right moment?" "From who? Sarah's been gone for 4 years, honey. She's not coming back to give you permission to be happy." "I know that." "Do you? Because you're acting like someone who's waiting for a sign that will never come. Lily's not Sarah. She's not supposed to be. She's someone different, someone new, someone who loves you and Emma exactly as you are." "What if I mess this up? What if I'm not ready? What if Emma gets hurt?" Carol moved to sit beside him, taking his hands in hers. "What if you don't mess it up? What if you're more ready than you think? What if the only one getting hurt is you by refusing to take the risk?" "I'm scared, Mom. Absolutely terrified." "Good. That means it matters. But Ethan, you can't let fear make your decisions. You're not honoring Sarah's memory by staying frozen. You're just wasting the life she'd want you to live." The words hit harder than Ethan expected. He sat there, his mother's hands in his, feeling the weight of 4 years of grief and caution pressing down on him. "What do I do?" "You ask her. Properly. With intention. You stop testing the water and you dive in." "Emma said she wants to help. When I propose." Carol's smile was radiant. "Of course she did. That girl knows what she wants." "What if Lily says no?" "Then she says no, and you deal with it like an adult." "But Ethan, I've seen the way she looks at you. That woman is not going to say no." After his mother left, Ethan sat with the conversation, letting it settle into his bones. He thought about the past 5 months, about every moment with Lily that had felt like coming home. He thought about Emma's easy acceptance, her excitement every time Lily was around, her casual references to "when Lily's part of our family officially." He thought about Sarah, about the life they'd planned that had been cut short, about the grief that had shaped him but didn't have to define him. And he thought about what she would say if she could see him now, hesitating, overthinking, trying to protect himself from the very thing that could make him whole again. She'd tell him to stop being an idiot and ask the damn question. That evening, after Emma was in bed, he called Lily. "Hi," she signed when her face appeared on screen. "Everything okay? You look serious. Can you come over tomorrow, after Emma's soccer game? I want to talk about something." Concern flickered across her face. "That sounds ominous." "It's not. It's good. I think. I hope. Can you come?" "Of course." "Ethan, you're worrying me." "Don't worry. Just trust me." "Please?" "Always." He barely slept that night, his mind running through possibilities and speeches and all the ways this could go wrong. By morning, Emma noticed immediately. "You're nervous," she said over breakfast, studying him with those 2 wise eyes. "A little. Is this about asking Lily to marry you?" Ethan nearly dropped his coffee mug. Why would you? "Dad, I'm 7, not stupid. You've been weird for weeks. Looking at rings on your computer when you think I'm not watching, asking grandma questions about proposals. It's pretty obvious. I haven't even decided if I'm going to." "Yes, you have. You decided weeks ago. You're just scared." "When did you get so smart?" Emma shrugged. "I've always been smart. You just don't always pay attention." She paused, then added, "Can I really help? When you ask her?" Ethan pulled her into a hug, marveling at this small person who somehow understood everything. "Yeah, baby, you can really help. In fact, I don't think I can do it without you." Emma's smile was brilliant. "Good, because I have ideas." They spent the morning plotting, Emma's enthusiasm infectious enough to cut through Ethan's anxiety. By the time they arrived at her soccer game, Ethan felt almost calm. Almost. Lily was already there, sitting in the bleachers with a coffee and a smile that made Ethan's heart skip. She waved when she saw them, signing hello to Emma, who ran over for a quick hug before joining her team. "She's so excited," Lily signed as Ethan sat beside her. "She texted me last night about some secret plan she can't tell me about yet." "Did she?" "Yes. Any idea what that's about?" "Maybe." Lily studied his face, her expression shifting from curious to concerned. "Ethan, what's going on? You've been acting strange." "Strange how?" "Distracted, nervous, like you're carrying some big secret." She paused. "Are you okay? Is this about us?" "It's definitely about us, but not in a bad way. I promise." "Then why won't you tell me what's going on?" "Because I need to do this right, and that means waiting a little bit longer. Can you trust me?" Lily's hand found his, squeezing gently. "I trust you. I'm just worried." "Don't be. By tonight, everything will make sense." The game was typical youth soccer chaos. Children running in clusters, occasionally making contact with the ball, parents cheering for every near miss. Emma scored one goal, celebrated with excessive enthusiasm, and spent most of the rest of the game talking to her teammates instead of paying attention to the play. After the game, Lily drove with them back to Ethan's apartment. Emma was vibrating with barely contained excitement, shooting Ethan meaningful looks that were about as subtle as a foghorn. Lily noticed but didn't comment, clearly trying to give them space to reveal whatever secret they were keeping. Inside the apartment, Ethan took a breath. This was it. The moment that would either change everything or confirm what they'd already built. He looked at Emma, who nodded encouragement, then turned to Lily. "Sit down," he signed. "Please." Lily sat on the couch, her expression cycling between curious and anxious. Emma bounced on her toes beside Ethan, barely able to contain herself. "Lily," Ethan began, his hands moving with careful precision. 5 months ago, my coworkers set up what they thought would be a disaster of a blind date. They expected me to fail their test, to prove I wasn't as decent as everyone thought. Instead, I met you." Lily's eyes were already bright with tears, her hands clasped in her lap. "You challenged every assumption I'd made about my life. You showed up for Emma's concert without hesitation. You learned about dinosaurs and attended community events and moved closer just to make our lives easier. You've been patient with my overthinking and honest about your fears and brave enough to risk yourself on something uncertain." Emma tugged on his sleeve, and Ethan nodded. She stepped forward, her small hands moving in careful signs. "You make my dad smile for real. Not pretend smile. Real smile. And you teach me signs and listen to my dinosaur facts, and you came to my concert even though you didn't have to. You're part of our family already. We just want to make it official." Lily's tears spilled over, her hand covering her mouth. Ethan knelt in front of her, pulling the ring box from his pocket with shaking hands. "Lily Harper, you've taught me that healing doesn't mean forgetting. That making room for new love doesn't dishonor old love. That family is about who shows up, who cares, who chooses to stay even when things get complicated." He opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band with a small diamond. "Will you marry me? Will you choose us? Will you let us choose you?" For a long moment, Lily just stared at the ring, at Ethan, at Emma, who was practically vibrating with anticipation. Then her hands moved, shaking but clear. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." Emma shrieked with joy, launching herself at both of them in a hug that nearly knocked Ethan over. Lily was laughing and crying simultaneously, her hands moving between holding Emma and reaching for Ethan and wiping away tears. "Really?" Ethan signed, needing confirmation. "You're sure?" I've never been more sure of anything. Yes, I'll marry you, both of you. He slipped the ring onto her finger, his hand still shaking, and pulled her into a kiss that Emma loudly declared was too much, before giggling and hugging them both again. "We're getting married," Emma announced to the empty apartment. "Lily's going to be what are you going to be? Stepmom? New mom? Mom too?" Lily pulled back from Ethan, looking at Emma seriously. "What do you want me to be?" Emma considered this with her usual gravity. "Can you just be Lily? Lily who's married to my dad and lives with us and is part of our family? I can absolutely be that. Is that enough for you?" "More than enough. But can I call you Mom sometimes, if I want to?" Lily's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Sweetheart, you can call me whatever feels right to you. I'm not trying to replace your mother. She'll always be your mom. But if you want me to be a mom too, in a different way, I would be honored." Emma nodded, satisfied, then looked at Ethan. "Can we call Grandma? She's going to be so excited." "In a minute, let me just—" Ethan pulled Lily close again, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. "I love you. I should have said it better, but I love you." "I love you too, both of you, so much it scares me." "Good. We should all be a little scared. It means this matters." They called Carol, who claimed complete surprise despite her conversation with Ethan the previous day. They called Lily's parents, who were shocked but supportive. They called Michael, who declared Ethan had better treat her right or else. And Emma, who had grabbed the phone, informed him that her dad was perfect, actually. So there. Marcus, Jennifer, and David found out Monday morning when Ethan came into work with Lily's engagement photos Emma had insisted on taking with his phone. The three of them stared at the pictures, Ethan and Lily on the couch, Emma between them, all of them laughing, with varying expressions of shock. "You're getting married," Marcus said slowly. "To the woman from the blind date." "Yes. The blind date we set up as a test." "That's the one." Jennifer was grinning. "This is either the best outcome or the worst, depending on perspective." "Best," Ethan said firmly. "Definitely best. You accidentally set me up with the love of my life. I choose to see that as a win." "When's the wedding?" David asked. "We haven't set a date yet, but you're all invited, assuming you promise not to set up any more tests." "We promise," all three said in unison. The next few months were a whirlwind of planning and logistics. Lily's lease ended and she moved into Ethan's apartment while they looked for a bigger place together. Emma helped her unpack, claiming one of Lily's art prints for her room and declaring it made the space officially ours. They found a house 3 weeks later, a small 3-bedroom with a yard and enough space for Lily's design studio. Emma got to pick her room first, choosing the one with windows facing the backyard where she could watch for birds. They moved in mid-March, the three of them working together to transform the house into home. Wedding planning happened in fits and starts between work and Emma's activities and the general chaos of blending lives. They decided on something small and intimate, just family and close friends, held at the same restaurant where they'd had their first disastrous date. "It seems fitting," Lily said when Ethan questioned the choice. "Starting where we started, coming full circle." Emma was obsessed with every detail. The flowers, the music, her dress, what she would say when they asked if anyone objected. They had to explain multiple times that nobody was going to object, that this wasn't like the movies, but she remained convinced she needed to be prepared just in case. The night before the wedding, Ethan found himself standing in Emma's doorway, watching her sleep. Tomorrow, everything would change officially. Tomorrow, they'd become a legal family, not just an emotional one. "Can't sleep?" His mother appeared beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "Too much thinking." "About?" "About Sarah. About whether she'd approve of all this. About whether I'm doing the right thing." Carol turned him to face her, her expression fierce. "Sarah loved you. She wanted you to be happy. She would absolutely approve of Lily, of this marriage, of you choosing to live instead of just survive." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I knew her too. And because I know you. You wouldn't be doing this if it didn't feel right in your bones. Stop second-guessing yourself." "What if I mess this up?" "Then you'll fix it. That's what marriage is. Continuous fixing and choosing and trying. Sarah would tell you the same thing." Ethan pulled his mother into a hug. "Thank you for everything, for pushing me, for accepting Lily, for being exactly what Emma and I needed. That's what mothers do. Now go to bed. You have a wedding tomorrow." The morning of the wedding arrived with perfect spring weather, sunny but cool, with a breeze that made everything feel fresh and possible. Emma woke up at dawn, too excited to sleep, and spent 2 hours getting ready with Lily at Carol's house while Ethan tried not to pace holes in the floor at home. Marcus arrived at 11 to drive him to the restaurant, finding Ethan in a state of controlled panic. "You look terrified," Marcus observed. "I am terrified." "Why?" "You love her. She loves you. This is the easy part. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I trip? What if Emma decides to object for fun?" "Then it'll be a good story. Relax, Cole. You've already done the hard part. You've built a life together. Today is just making it official." They arrived at the restaurant to find it transformed. White flowers everywhere, chairs arranged in neat rows, a small platform where the ceremony would take place. The same corner where David had hidden to spy on their first date now held a table of photos. Ethan and Sarah, Emma as a baby, Lily's family, and newer pictures of the three of them together. Lily had insisted on including Sarah in the day. "She's part of your story," she'd said, "part of Emma's story. We're not erasing that, we're building on it." Guests arrived in small groups. Ethan's co-workers, looking slightly sheepish but genuinely happy. Lily's deaf community friends, filling the space with movement and energy. Family from both sides. Carol already crying before the ceremony even started. Then Lily appeared at the back of the restaurant, and Ethan forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple cream dress, her hair down and woven with small flowers. But it was her expression that stopped him. Pure joy mixed with nervous excitement, her eyes locked on his like he was the only person in the room. Emma walked beside her, carefully carrying a small bouquet, her own dress a shade of blue she'd insisted matched the ocean. They'd decided Emma would walk with Lily rather than traditional roles, the three of them entering this new chapter together. The ceremony was brief and meaningful. They'd written their own vows, signing them for the deaf guests while speaking them for the hearing ones, creating a space where both worlds merged seamlessly. "Lily," Ethan signed and spoke simultaneously, "you've taught me that love doesn't have a quota, that caring for you doesn't mean I loved Sarah less. You've shown Emma what it means to be chosen, to be valued, to be seen. You've made our house a home and our small family something bigger and better. I promise to keep choosing you every single day for the rest of my life." Lily's hands shook as she responded. "Ethan, you let me in when you had every reason to be guarded. You trusted me with your heart and your daughter's heart. You've shown me what family can be when it's built on honesty and choice rather than just blood. Emma, you've taught me that love multiplies rather than divides, and that family is about showing up. I promise to keep showing up, to keep choosing both of you, to keep building this beautiful, complicated life we're creating together." When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Emma actually turned around to check, making everyone laugh. Then she turned back and declared loudly, "Nobody better object because this is the best thing ever." More laughter, some tears, and then the words that made it official. "I now pronounce you married. You may kiss." The kiss was sweet and genuine, witnessed by everyone who mattered. When they pulled apart, Emma was there immediately, hugging them both, declaring them officially family now. The reception was small and perfect, dancing and food and toast that made everyone cry and laugh in equal measure. Marcus gave a speech about how sometimes the worst ideas lead to the best outcomes, and how Ethan had taught them all what integrity actually looked like. Michael warned Ethan again about treating Lily right, but his smile took the edge off the threat. Emma's toast was the best, delivered with 7-year-old confidence. "My dad was sad for a really long time after my mom died. And then Lily came and he started smiling for real again. She makes us happy. She makes us a family. And also she's really good at helping with homework, so that's a bonus." As the evening wound down, Ethan found himself standing with Lily on the small patio outside the restaurant, the same spot where they'd said goodnight after that first complicated date. "We made it," Lily signed. "Did you doubt we would?" "Sometimes. When I got scared. When things felt too complicated. But then you do something annoyingly perfect, like including Sarah in our wedding, and I'd remember why I was taking the risk. No more risks. This is it. You're stuck with me now. Good. I like being stuck with you. Emma appeared in the doorway, still in her dress, but with her shoes kicked off. Are you guys being mushy again? Absolutely, Ethan said. Can I join? They made room for her between them, the three of them standing together looking out at the city lights. Somewhere above them, Ethan liked to imagine Sarah looking down, approving of the family they'd become, not replacing her, but honoring her by living fully, loving completely, choosing joy despite grief. What happens now? Emma asked. Now we go home, Lily signed. The three of us. To our house. Our family. And we live happily ever after? Ethan and Lily exchanged glances over Emma's head, both knowing it wouldn't be that simple. There would be challenges. Blending families always had complications. There would be moments of grief for what was lost, adjustments to new rhythms, learning curves as they figured out how to be married and parents and themselves all at once. But they'd face it together, with honesty and patience and the kind of love that chose to show up even when things got hard. Yeah, baby, Ethan said, pulling both his girls close. We live happily ever after, or at least we try really hard to. That's good enough for me, Emma declared, and really, it was good enough for all of them. The trying, the choosing, the building of something new from pieces of old grief and new hope, and the unexpected grace of second chances. They went home that night, the three of them, officially a family, to a house filled with moving boxes and possibility. Emma fell asleep between them on the couch, exhausted from the day's excitement. Lily and Ethan sat in the quiet, their daughter breathing softly between them, and felt the weight and wonder of what they'd built. Thank you, Lily signed with her free hand, for taking a chance on me, for letting me into your life. Thank you for being brave enough to stay, even when my coworkers were terrible, even when things got complicated. Thank you for choosing us. Always, for as long as you'll have me. That's going to be a very long time. Good. They sat there until Emma stirred, then carried her to her new room in their new house, tucking her into bed with her dinosaur books arranged on the shelf Ethan had built, and her nightlight casting shadows that looked like prehistoric creatures on the walls. In their own room, the room they'd share now, officially and completely, Ethan and Lily stood by the window looking out at their small backyard, at the swing set they'd installed last weekend, at the future spreading before them in ways they were only beginning to understand. What are you thinking? Lily asked. That 5 months ago I was terrified of this exact moment, of letting someone new in, of risking my heart and Emma's heart, of moving forward when it felt like betrayal. And now? Now I can't imagine any other life. You've made us whole in ways I didn't know we were broken, not by replacing what we lost, but by adding something new and equally valuable. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said to me. I'm full of surprises. I'm counting on it. They stood there a while longer, two people who'd found each other through the most unlikely circumstances, who'd chosen to be brave enough to try, who'd built a family from grief and hope and the radical act of showing up for each other every single day. Behind them, in her room down the hall, Emma slept peacefully, dreaming probably of dinosaurs and soccer and the wedding where she'd officially gotten the family she'd been building in her heart for months. Above them, the stars wheeled through their ancient patterns, indifferent to human dramas of loss and love and second chances. But in that small house, in that moment, three people had found something worth celebrating. Not perfection, not certainty, but the honest, complicated, beautiful truth of choosing each other. And in the end, that choice was everything. The foundation on which they'd build their future, the promise they'd keep renewing every morning, the answer to every question that mattered. They'd chosen each other, and they'd keep choosing every single day for all the days to come. That was more than enough. It was everything.